Hello again and welcome back to our course on Project 2019. In this section, I'm going to set you exercise 3. And as exercises go, this one is actually quite a long exercise and it will take you a little while to work your way through this one. And it has a few constituent parts. What we're going to do is to take the bathroom refit project, and not only are we going to add the durations of the various component tasks, but we're going to put in dependencies, and we're also going to change the overall structure of the project for reasons that I'll explain in a moment. Now, sometimes when you go through a project and you have your first try at listing out all of those tasks, as we've done here, you might be successful in some ways and you might make it through that list, but you won't necessarily structure it in a way that lends itself either to easy scheduling and planning or to easy understanding. And you can finish up in a situation, and this is what is happening in the wedding project, that you finish up with many complicated dependencies. So for instance, I have a task here, preparation. It's task 16, and one of its subtasks is prepare for painting. Now we know that further down in the plan we also have a paint task. And clearly one predecessor of the paint task is going to have to be prepare for painting. But there will also be various tasks following on from painting that depend on it, such as actually fitting the equipment. Now, whilst a number of dependencies are obviously going to be the cornerstone of scheduling the project, you can greatly simplify the structure of the project once you've got your basic lists of tasks by dividing the project into separate phases and making each phase as self-contained as possible. Now, what we're going to do with the bathroom refit project is to make 4 separate phases. And from the point of view of dependencies, each of the 4 phases is going to be self-dependent. Now, looking at what's involved in this bathroom refit, the 4 phases that I think we should divide the project into are basically a planning phase. That would be a phase of activities that happen before we start doing the work. So planning certainly would be in the preparation phase or the planning phase, but also things like arranging the finances, finding the contractors, so on and so forth. The second phase is going to be a purchasing phase, and there's quite a lot of selecting to do. So I need to select paint, equipment, tiles, so on and so forth. And I need to order it and also get it delivered. And I'm going to need to get all of that done before the work actually starts. The third phase will be the work itself, so the implementation itself. And the final phase will be where any snags are dealt with, the sort of cleaning up phase, making sure that everything is ready to be used. Now, in order to give you the information you need to do this division into 4 phases, let's take a look at my answer to exercise 3. So you see there the 4 phases as collapsed summary tasks. Task 2 is the planning phase summary task, and its total duration is 12 days. And you can see the different columns of information. Clearly, the values in the duration columns for the summary tasks will be derived from the duration of its subtasks. But the predecessors column shows you the predecessors of summary tasks. And the successors column shows you the successors of the summary task. So if you take, for example, task ID 21, the purchasing phase, its predecessor, the one it depends on, is task 2, which as you can see is the planning phase. And its successor, the one that comes after it, is task 40, which is the implementation phase. So you can see there the very simple structure of the overall project in those 4 phases. Now, if I open up one of the phases, I'll give you an overview now of the dependencies and how they work within the phase. Now, within the planning phase, there are 3 summary tasks: planning, contractors, and finance. And basically with these 3 summary tasks, the individual durations are there and lots of individual dependencies within the planning phase are also there. So for instance, if we look at scoping, which is task 4, you can see it has 5 successors, task 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. And these include selecting the style, deciding whether we're going to have a project manager or not, checking what permissions are required, if any, to do the work, and fixing the dates for the works and arranging temporary accommodations to use whilst the bathroom is out of action. And then we have the summary task Contractors. This is where we get some contractor recommendations, we make a short list, we get some quotations, then we appoint the contractors. Note that the Get Contractor Recommendations task runs in parallel with some early phases of planning, but we won't be getting any contractor quotations until the planning summary task, so task 3, is complete, because we want to be clear about exactly what we're expecting the contractor to do. We then have the finance summary task. Once we've got all our contractor quotations, we can set about arranging the finance. Now, in order to help you get all of these numbers right, to get the durations in and get the dependencies right and so on, I've prepared a text file for each of the 4 phases, which is in the exercise folder, and it lists the durations and the dependencies, also the predecessors and successors in terms of the task IDs in my answer to exercise 3. If for some reason your IDs are differently numbered to mine, then clearly that will affect all of the predecessors and successor values. But hopefully your ID numbers are the same as mine, so you should be able to use this to help you not only enter the appropriate durations, but also to set up all of the correct dependencies. So I've got up on the screen now the text file for the planning phase. And as I said, there is a text file for each phase in the exercise folder. So let's look at the purchasing phase. Now you might be wondering throughout why you can't see start and finish dates here in my answer to exercise 3. Well, whenever you're working your way through exercise 3, it won't be on the same dates that I'm recording this. So to a large extent, the dates, if I gave you my dates, they wouldn't really help you. It's the durations that are important, the dependencies are important. But I'm assuming throughout that your dates are going to be different from mine. Now the purchasing phase is pretty straightforward. It includes the delivery of each of the materials, the tiles and so on. So at the end of this, I've introduced a milestone there, which is task number 38, which is all materials on site. That's a very significant milestone in the project. Next, we have the implementation phase. And let me explain the main points here. Now we set up a skip, a receptacle for the waste products which arise from gutting the existing bathroom and from the building work that we're going to do fitting the new bathroom. Then we have a lot of preparation to do. We need to prepare for the tiling, prepare for the flooring, and also prepare for the painting. So those 3 items might include things like joist work, there might be plastering to do, and a whole host of other items. And then we do the first fix electrics and the first fix plumbing. Then we do the painting and the flooring and the tiling and the other wall work that's needed, all of the general building work, which you can see there in tasks 55, 57 and 59. Then we start the second fix electrics, and this is things like putting the sockets up on the walls. We then do the second fix plumbing, which might be things like pipes from the pipework behind the wall, maybe installing things like taps. It's also worth bearing in mind it's often the case nowadays that there's some kind of electrical certification needed once the electrical work is finished, so I've put that in as task 50 just here. And then once the second fix is underway, fitting the equipment begins, which is task 61. And then when fitting of the equipment is finished, we have a milestone, which is task 62. The final phase, the completion phase, again is fairly straightforward. We have a task to resolve any snags or outstanding issues, which is task 65 here. And then we basically clean up and we hail the project as being complete. And just one small reminder before I leave you to exercise 3, do remember to move your project to change those dates to your start date, as you're not going to be using the same dates that I'm using today when I'm recording this. So that's exercise 3 for you, and that's the end of this section. I will see you in the next one.